He loses. Yeah, I said it. He loses. Thank you to our $5 patrons, Red Wolf 4765, Mana Gem Lord, and Sean. Another thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays, and Red Wolf 4765. A very big thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha, Aidan Okami, and Joaquin. And another very big thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. Now, we're having this breakdown/discussion on what would happen, or what would have happened, if Gojo Satoru had immediately opened up with Infinite Void after striking the King of Curses with a 200% hollow purple. Please leave your own thoughts on what would have happened to the King of Curses in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also hit that little notification so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also I do have a Patreon down below, so as low as $1 a month. You get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get these same perks and more. Now, let's hop into the discussion. What's up guys, Pencil here, and yes, we're here to talk about what would have happened if Gojo Satoru was built like me, aka desperate. Desperate and greedy and like diabolical. So I was thinking about this, especially after talking about it in chapter 228 review, how Gojo's been kind of standing around in many scenarios where, in my opinion, he shouldn't have been standing around, and how I think if anything's going to cost Gojo this fight, it's going to be his own hubris, which is ironic considering we're dealing with two of the most confident and reasonably good reason to be confident people in the entire verse in Gojo and Sukuna. But there are multiple instances of this throughout the entire battle, like the, I don't know, chance when he had blasted Sukuna in the face into his own shrine and Sukuna was on the back foot, or I don't know, maybe when he had Sukuna just in front of him with a hole blown in his chest, or, you know, maybe, just maybe, when he was literally just working Sukuna and was in his face and was ready to go to work again. Like, there are multiple occasions in this fight so far, and this has only been a 5-chapter fight so far, I do believe, where Gojo could have done some devious things if he actually was, like, active at all, but he hasn't been, and I do believe there are good character reasons for that. Like, it makes sense that he's not getting all too active on Megami's body, and also it makes sense that, you know, he's a little overconfident, or just confident in general, because, you know, he believes, and he is, and he's been said to be the strongest on numerous occasions. But with that being the case, I want to go to the biggest example of where I believe Gojo's inactivity kind of cost them a dub, and it's right at the start of the fight. Like, go back to chapter 223. What do we see happen? Gojo, with the help of Utahime, Old Man Gakuganji, and of course the GOAT, the man, the myth, the strongest in the verse secretly, next to Takaba, Ijichi, he hit Sukuna with a 200% hollow purple, and it charred Sukuna's arm, very specifically. It did some numbers. Not crazy numbers, not numbers that you would really expect considering what this is and what it's done before, but it did enough numbers that Sukuna's arm was charred off. Like, not down entirely, notably a good chunk of his forearm is still there, but very particularly his hand and his other hand are not looking all too good. One is just completely removed, but the other is burnt up a little bit. And Gojo, in this instance, had an opportunity. He had a way, in my opinion, to immediately win the fight. And that was, instead of showing up in front of Sukuna and chatting with him saying, "Just so there's no understanding, let me set you straight. You're the challenger here." Instead of doing all that and raising his right finger, his right pointer finger, I would have, if I were in his scenario, not just raised my right pointer finger, I would have raised the finger that's in the center of my hand, because I'm not sure if I can say which finger it actually is. I would have crossed it over my pointer finger, and I would have went domain expansion, infinite void. Because here's the thing, right? I say Gojo could have won because Gojo actually legitimately 100 billion million trillion % could have won. Because if he opens infinite void here, specifically right at the end of 223, notably when you open up 224 and like they start chatting a little bit, you see Sukuna is healing his arm as he progresses, and then as he gets to the end of his sentence about him being a nameless fish, he's fully healed the arm back. So the opportunity's gone right there. So this is something that Gojo has to do instantaneously for it to really be useful. And with that being the case, if Gojo opened Unlimited Void right here, right on top of Sukuna's dome piece, right at the start of the battle. Before the battle could even really get started, Sukuna loses. Because there's nothing Sukuna could have done in that moment to counter Infinite Void, except for maybe one exception. Notably, it's hard to tell just how far apart they are, and how many feet that is, and if Sukuna could cover it in time, or if Gojo, who knows, if his barrier even could have reached Sukuna. So maybe that's why Gojo didn't open it. But Gojo could have just appeared 2 steps ahead, or 3, or 4, or 5, or how many he needed to be to actually trap Sukuna. Because realize, without a hand, Sukuna couldn't cast Infinite Void. Because he can never cast Infinite Void. I'm sorry, I misspoke. He couldn't cast Malevolent Shrine to counter domain, like he does later on. And he also couldn't Simple Domain, if he even knows that technique. Reasonably, he should, I think. But then again, does he? Does he actually know Simple Domain? I don't think he does. Because, who would he have seen use it? Because you gotta have reference. I mean, maybe he can use it based off seeing Kusakabe use a variation of it back in Yuji's body in Shibuya? Maybe? Because I don't know. I can't think of any time where Sukuna or Itadori has specifically witnessed a Simple Domain. But assuming Sukuna has that, because Sukuna's bag is bottomless, that can't happen because you specifically need to use your hands to cast the hand seals in order to, I don't know, maybe open up a Simple Domain. And you can't do that without a hand. Can't open Malevolent Shrine without a hand. Can't do anything without that hand in terms of stopping Infinite Void. And the thing is, right, there is one thing that Sukuna should hypothetically be able to do, but that doesn't protect him from Infinite Void. When I mentioned this in the 228 review, people were saying in the comment section, oh, well, all Sukuna has to do in that instance is just domain amplification, and then he's good, right? Domain amplification blocks domain sure hits. No, it doesn't. Go back to chapter, let me just double check to make sure I'm speaking properly. Go back to chapter 89. If you don't want to, because it's not very easy for you to do while you're listening to this video, don't worry, I can tell you. Jogo has domain amplification activated. Remember that. Unlike Hanami, he was not dumb enough to shut his domain amplification down when facing Satoru Gojo. And we see what happens when someone gets caught in Unlimited Void while they're using domain amplification. Yeah, Jogo still gets hit and insta-paralyzed. That's where we get the 0.2 second domain. So domain amplification does not protect you from sure hits from domains. It just doesn't. Unless Sukuna's domain amplification is super duper special, which I don't think it is. He's good at using it, but that doesn't make it any unique variation of it. Then he would get hit by Unlimited Void and lose. That's it. Notably, the big thing with this battle between Gojo and Sukuna is that Gojo's able to not necessarily ignore, because Sukuna also got relatively inactive when he was using domain against Gojo, but Gojo's able to face tank Malevolent Shrine, the divine domain. He's able to work with that. Sure, is it extremely damaging and likely extremely taxing on him? Yeah, because he's spamming RCT, but he actually can respond to it with a feasible thing within his kit. And don't get me wrong, Sukuna has reasonable responses to Unlimited Void within his kit when he has 2 hands. If he doesn't, unless he can, we've never seen this before, but unless he's like Mahito or Dagon, and while in Megami's body he can open domain without using his traditional hand seals, Dagon opens it up on his stomach and Mahito usually opens it up in his mouth. That's how those two activate domain, but I'm not sure Sukuna can do that. He's yet to show the ability, and considering he's in a mostly humanoid and flesh vessel, I highly doubt he can. Though it is established that he could hypothetically manipulate his flesh on the fly, so maybe. But the thing is, by the time Unlimited Void opens up, it's too late. Sukuna, at least so far, especially based on the recent chapters, has shown no reason or no way to be immune to the sure hit of Unlimited Void. In fact, quite the opposite. Out of all the things that Gojo has attempted to hit Sukuna with, the only thing that's garnered any sort of serious reaction from Sukuna is Unlimited Void. That's the only thing that Sukuna has had to take active precaution against. Sure, he had to take action. He had to take active precaution against purple too, but still, he managed to, seemingly enough, eat/avoid that well enough. Red, it did damage, but not enough. Blue, or the telekinesis, did it even do damage? I don't even think it did damage. So, the main thing that Sukuna's worried about is Unlimited Void. And in that moment, if Gojo had just opened it, he would have won. And that's crazy. I don't know. That's crazy. Once again, maybe I'm missing something in Sukuna's kit. Maybe bro's bag is just deeper than I thought it was, and he has some magical mystical counter. But without that hand, what does he like? What does he do? What does he do other than get insta paralyzed and lose? I got nothing. And then you may be wondering, well, Pencil, this is what if he did that? So sure, Sukuna loses. What happens next? Well, I think Sukuna just gets done. Like, I think that's another reason why it probably didn't happen, because the fight would be over. And then, like, Gojo, very likely, I don't know how fatigued he would be, if at all, from that. Like, a 200% purple plus a domain expansion sounds like a lot of cursed energy expenditure, but remember, we're dealing with Satoru Gojo. So he does that, and I think the series is over. Like I do think the series, like, notably Megami may get got. Like, ultimately that sacrifice may still have to be made where Megami ends up perishing because Gojo and crew can't figure out a way to get him out of Megami's body safely. Or you go with the common theory that, oh, Itadori can use his new maybe soul swapping curse technique to do something about that, and then Megami saved, and then Sukuna goes with Itadori or whatever, and then something like that occurs. And in that case, well, I don't think Kenny's winning. Well, like, unless Kenny has some sort of secret plan that can somehow incapacitate a non-fatigue Satoru Gojo, which I don't think he has, or else he would have done it. Like, the best I could see Kenjaku doing in that scenario specifically is him, like, I don't know, collapsing the barrier. Like not collapsing the barrier, but like using Tengen to collapse all the cursed energy structures, so Gojo's in a more vulnerable state. Because hypothetically, I'm not sure if it's confirmed, but I do believe that Kenjaku predates Tengen, or at least is on the same time frame as him. And thusly, it's very likely Kenjaku knows how to use cursed energy efficiently, regardless of whether or not Tengen's in place. Or else his threat against the Kogane wouldn't have even been valid, because he would have accidentally destroyed himself. So presumably, Kenjaku knows how to operate his cursed energy efficiently, so even in this scenario, even with a super non-fatigue Gojo, a fresh cast, an angry Kashimo, because he didn't get to run the ones with Sukuna, like, that's the other major thing that could happen in this timeline. Maybe Kashimo just spawns in and is like, okay, you took my dub, bro. Like, let's go fight. Like, he probably wants to fight Gojo, and I think Kashimo gets washed, and then Gojo is slightly more fatigued, and then Kenjaku still can't do anything. Like, this is unironically a good end. Like, I don't necessarily see, the only negative thing that I can see coming from this is, one, we lose a relatively cool fight. Like, so far I've been enjoying Gojo versus Sukuna. It's very, very neat. I like that. I like the way we're expanding on the limits and the craziness that is the Jujutsu power system. But, like, we lose that, and then, like, worst case scenario, like, the biggest loser in this case is Sukuna and Megami. Maguna is the biggest loser here because he kind of just gets done in before he can do anything. And presumably, like, let's go with the idea, because a lot of people have been talking about it recently, when was Maharaga even part of the equation? Like, has Maharaga just been chilling in Sukuna's shadow since before the fight began? Has Sukuna just kept that Dharma wheel in there for all this time? I still don't even think Maharaga would be able to save Sukuna, because he couldn't pull it out if he's paralyzed by infinite information. And notably, I don't think, like, going back to Sukuna instantly losing, I don't think that a 0.2 domain would be very effective against them. I do think Gojo would kind of have to break his brain. Like, at least hold it open for 10 seconds to just solidly snap Sukuna's mind. Because the disaster curses were able to break out of it relatively quickly. Like, all Kenjaku and Gojo managed to have was, like, a relatively quick conversation, and Mahito woke up, and obviously Sukuna's on a way different level than Mahito. So even with the 299 seconds plus however long it took for Kenny and Gojo to have their little "who are you" conversation, I do think Sukuna's going to need, like, constant re-upping of unlimited voids and or just an extended unlimited void to properly break them. But once that's the case, I don't think Sukuna can retaliate. The 10 Shadows technique, as far as we know, is an activation only technique. It is not a technique that can, like, be preset. Like, you can't schedule when a 10 Shadows is going to spawn. And thusly, I think Maharaga's wheel would kind of just end up being useless, even if it was sitting in Sukuna's shadow. And very specifically, can Maharaga's wheel even adapt to something like infinite information being shoved into one's brain, because like technically nothing's wrong. Like I'm not sure if it does like notable physical damage that can be adapted to, right? Like does Maharaga spin the wheel to brain damage? Like what happens to the head that Maharaga would even adapt to if it could even be somehow retroactively summoned by Sukuna? I don't know. I think Sukuna just loses. And then they figure out a way to get Megami out. Or they just sack Megami. And it's a rough scenario for everyone involved. And now it's just up to Maki to continue the Zenin clan legacy, I guess. And she won't want to do that. So I guess that really is just the end of the Zenin clan. There are now 2 great Jujutsu sorcerer families. And then Kashimo runs the ones with Gojo and gets mollywopped. Kenjaku realizes that, plan Dunzo, and then he waits for another 1,000 years or something. Like I just don't think there's anything Bro can really do, because that's it. Are there any other loose ends to wrap up after that? Because unless Kenny does something crazy, unless Kenny can utilize a paralyzed Sukuna to form the merger, and then the merger occurs anyway, the culling game barriers collapse, and then suddenly the giant cursed conglomerate is there, and Kenny's riding on top of it like it's a gigantic tsunami wave, and he's like, let's do this, Satoru Gojo. I don't know. The cursed conglomerate is such a weird, like, I don't know what abilities it would have. Would it literally just be like a giant Rika? Because notably, that's what it looks like. Like, a lot of people describe it as like a centipede or a cockroach. It literally just looks like Rika with extra legs or arms or whatever. Because we know Rika is just a mass of cursed energy given form. So another mass of cursed energy given form, wouldn't be shocked if it just ended up as big Rika. I don't know. No matter how much big you make Rika, I don't think Rika is going to be able to beat Gojo. So I think Gojo still just cleans up. He cleans house. The only person who could challenge him is Sukuna, and in this what-if scenario, he took out Sukuna before the battle could even begin. So I think it's a little bit unfortunate. However, that's what I think. Please, you guys think in the comment section down below. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe Gojo doesn't have, or I guess maybe, well, no, in this time he has to do it in this timeline. So what can Sukuna do in retaliation to an instant unlimited void from Gojo when he has his arm missing? Do you guys think he can heal in time and counteract and we still get the battle? Do you guys think he is just locked down and the series gets a happy end? Do you think Megami could be saved in this timeline? Do you think Megami's a lost cause? His brain also gets destroyed alongside Sukuna's? Please let me know all that and more in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure the notifications also miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also I do have a Patreon down below, each for as low as $1 a month to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dago the Pencil, writing off.